It's time for the Orange Blossom Classic, possibly the SWAC championship in week 1. We're here to break all of that down and go around the HBCU. Oh yeah, it's Locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked on HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked on HBCU podcast, your number 1 daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I, of course, am your host, Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor. Thank you for going on this journey with me, making Locked on HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off does not mean that the journey is over. It means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Now, it's really important you do that because with the season here, I will be tweeting the games that I watch. So as the game is going on, you'll get more updates, especially on game day. And guys, let's get this podcast to 1,000 subscribers. That is the goal. I want to have 1,000 subscribers by next Saturday. So by week 2's games, I would love to have 1,000. We are in the Locked On group chat. I can't remember who said it, but I'm just like them. I ain't too proud to beg. So tell a friend to 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 tell a friend. Everybody tell a friend, okay? 1,000 subscribers by next Saturday. That is our. But let's look at one of the biggest games in the HBCU landscape today. Let's look at one of the games that could be a deciding factor in the fate of the SWAC. A game this monumental does not typically happen on the first week of the season. It did last year. Who knows if it will this year? It very well could. Now, as we go forward, we're going to do a thing we call, I used to bring it from my old show, and it's 3 matchups, 2 storylines, and a key to victory. We're going to do this every single Friday for our game of the week. So we won't have Feature Friday, but we will have 3 matchups, 2 storylines, and a key to victory every single week for our game of the week. And before we get into it, another little thing that we're going to do is I want to allow you to vote on what the game of the week is going to be. We'll see how that'll be. Just pay attention to the Twitter. Let's get into our 3 matchups. Everybody wants to know about Travis Hunter. That's the story of the HBCU landscape. It's the biggest story a lot of times for a lot of people. I'm looking at Xavier Smith versus Travis Hunter. What is he going to be? This is his first time. Now, I don't know if Travis Hunter can swim. Throw him in the deep end and let's see if he does it. I'm not condoning you to do that as a parent, okay? Listen, I'm not the person to teach anybody how to swim. I ain't taught myself how to swim, okay? Whatever. It is what it is. I get scared when I think about the whole throw in the deep end method. But listen, that's what we're doing with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter was the number 1 recruit in the nation as a high schooler. Chose an FCS program, first time that has ever happened. He's supposed to come in and be this, that, and the third. I don't know if he can swim. Throw him in the deep end and let's see what he does. And this time the deep end is Xavier Smith. Xavier Smith is a really good wide receiver. He's one of the most decorated active FCS wide receivers. So that means of everybody playing, not of all time, but just of the guys that are playing right now. He's one of the most decorated. And we had a lot of expectations for him going into this season. And when you look at his game versus North Carolina, I don't believe that he disappointed. He had 10 catches, 78 yards. He was the leading wide receiver for the team. I feel like he gave you what you expected. He was a reliable target. And that's what I was looking for out of Xavier Smith. Sure, he probably would have liked to get into the end zone. And he's probably really thirsty to get into end zone because he had 3 touchdowns last year. Now, that was after a COVID year, but you take that out. He was the leading receiver for the Rattlers the last 2 seasons, 2019 and then 2021. So he's been around. In that 2019 season, he had 1,150 yards, 11 touchdowns. Last year, he didn't cross the 1,000 threshold, and he only had 3 touchdowns. Now, with the way that Moussa was slinging it, I think we're probably going to see closer to the 2019 production, but Jean-Marie Shareed might be the reason that he doesn't quite hit those numbers, because Shareed is a capable wide receiver in himself. So that could play that. But overall, I want to see. Let's put Xavier Smith on Travis Hunter and let him go toe-to-toe. It's a lot of things I don't know. I think it would be a real trick if Travis Hunter didn't play wide receiver. But one thing I do know for sure is he's going to play cornerback. That is his specialty. Let's see if he can lock down the number one corner. Because of everything they've been saying about him, I feel like this is the way to go. You could flip it as well. That's my second matchup. I want to see just the Jackson State wide receivers versus the FAMU defensive backs. When I look at Florida A&M, they lost Marquise Bell, right? They lost Antoine Collier. They're replacing 3 out of their 4 defensive backs in the secondary. This is a lot of turnaround for a team that, coming into the season, we expected to brand itself on defense. That's a lot of turnaround for that kind of squad. These aren't typically the schools that we say, oh yeah, that's a defensive stalwart. They replacing a lot of people in that secondary. However, who knows? We'll see. It's still up in the air. But BJ Bowler, we'll see, should play. I hope BJ Bowler plays. And if he does, he's the guy you'll be there. Who will be there? That's the guy you should be looking at. It's somebody I wanted to see last week. Unfortunately, we weren't able to because of the eligibility issues. But he's going to be someone I am definitely keeping an eye on. And he might be going against a couple of players, because I don't think they're going to stick Bowler on one guy if he plays, or whoever the lead cornerback is on just one player. I can't wait to see what Kevin Coleman is. The recruitment of Travis Hunter has led to Kevin Coleman kind of being covered up a little bit. People forget this is another big-time recruit that they got, and it's no disrespect. I understand how it goes, but this is the first time we're really going to see him on the field in a real game, and he had this isn't a wide receiver stat, but he actually did have a kickoff return for a touchdown in the spring game. So he'll contribute on the special teams at the worst, and then, of course, Malachi Wideman should be going into a larger role as a wide receiver. So those are some of the things I want to see. The last and final matchup is a battle of the trenches. And I don't mean one's offensive line versus one's defensive line. It goes both ways. I want to see the battle of the trenches on each side. When I look at these defenses, they were the 2 top defenses in the conference last year. Both were really good against the run, and then they also were really good at sacking the quarterback. I believe Jackson State was 1 in each and FAMU was 2nd in each. But either way, they are both really adept at getting this done. So with that being the case, that kind of flies in the face of what each team wants to do. First and foremost, you never, ever want to get your quarterback hit. You never want that. So we can go without saying they're trying to protect Sanders and protect Moussa. That's understood. But they should both be trying to activate that run game. FAMU doesn't have Bonnet this year. They're going to try to run the ball better than they did against North Carolina. And when I'm looking at Jackson State, their offense was shaky. Offensive line was shaky. We know this. They went on to retool, it feels like the whole offensive line, honestly. And then they got Stevion Wilkerson. They have made an effort and they've said it, that they're going to make an effort to run the football. Well, if they're going to make that effort to run the football, they just retooled their offensive line. You're looking at Florida A&M for different reasons, has a shaky offensive line. Hopefully they get some players back. Well, now we're looking at a situation where that offensive line is a big question mark on each side. Each team is going to be looking to return to form defensively that they had last year. Well, this might just be a deciding factor. It's not the deciding factor because we have the key to the game at the end of the show. But this will be a deciding factor and actually probably plays a part into what our key to victory is. But before we get into the key to victory, we have to talk about some of the storylines that we're watching. Some of them like the adversity that each team is facing. And then also, we have to talk about the fact that this is a game that means a lot. Now, with that being said, I first want to give you an important message. And listen, are you one of those people who think that it's okay to drive stoned? What's the worst that can happen, right? I'll just end up driving under the speed limit and I'll just get to my destination safely. No big deal. No. The truth is your reaction times anytime you're under the influence are significantly slower. And I know. Darian, why are you being a buzzkill? Because I need to be, right? I need to be. Stop kidding yourself. It's not okay to drive high. If you've been using weed in any single form, do not get behind the wheel. You just feel different, then it's probably going to be different when you're in the car. Don't drive high or get a DUI. As we keep on rolling on today's episode of Locked on HBCU, I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. And today's word of the day is umbrage, which means a feeling of being offended at what someone has said or done. I'm trying to think about how I'm gonna fit that one in here. This one should be kind of interesting. But our two storylines is continue rolling with our Orange Blossom Classic preview. Our two storylines, and I'm gonna start off with the first one, is adversity, and that breaks up into two different parts, right? But we only have two. They both fall underneath the adversity umbrella. Now, I don't want to compare the two. They are not the same. They are both obstacles that each team is going to have to get over, but they're not remotely close. They're not in ballpark, really. Look at Jackson State. They're operating with heavier hearts. They might be operating with more on the mind as far as what's going on in the community with the water situation in Jackson, right? I went on Locked On Sports today, and we talked about it and how they could potentially provide a little bit of solace for those who are in the situation. And we know this. We know that sports can be a distraction. It can be a way to get away from everything that's going on in the world. Maybe Jackson State's going to be that. I talked to him. Y'all gonna get tired of me talking about him, but hey, it is what it is. That's the big homie, Ross, right, from Locked On Saints. And we talked about this before we got on Locked On Sports, about how the Saints and how that team is so ingrained within the community that when the community is going through something, seeing the Saints play, seeing the Saints do well in their representation, a lot of times gives a break. It gives a time to say, oh, what I'm going through right now isn't what I'm going through right now. That's the hope. It doesn't mean that the situation is less serious. It doesn't mean that the football team is more important than all the citizens in the city. However, it does mean that maybe those citizens within the city do get a chance to just put on their TV Jackson State, in their mind, hopefully win a game and say, all right, I had a 3.5 hour break, right? That's the deciding, or that's something that you have to decide how you view it. Now, when you look at Florida A&M, theirs isn't so emotional, right? Because you have players at Jackson State who probably got family in the area, maybe grew up in the area. They could be really concerned for how their loved ones are doing. Florida A&M's is a lot bit less tragic. It's a little bit more simple, and in some ways a little bit more complicated. It's all around. You're looking at Florida A&M, who does not know who's going to play. I don't know who's going to play. They don't know if they're going to have a player last minute become eligible. Right? Isaiah Land, I don't think Isaiah Land is playing this game. And that is truly sad. And that is truly a detriment to not only Florida A&M, but us as viewers. That's a detriment to that, because this is one of the best defensive players in football on the FCS level. And we don't get to see him play because of a situation that sounds like it was out of his control. According to his lawyer, him and Cam Colvin hired a lawyer. It says that they were advised to take the wrong amount of classes. Basically, they did what they were told to do, and what they were told to do left them getting in trouble. And that sucks. Like, that's just terrible, because you're thinking you're doing everything. It's a reason that people are calling these guys out. Not going to harp on it too much. However, there's 17 players missing. To me, that's a failure. Because at most, there were 26 on Saturday. We're 5 days from Saturday now, right? 5 days, yeah. You only got players done. Or when I heard this news, it was Wednesday. It was either Wednesday or Tuesday. So I'm looking at you 3 days in, and you only got 9 players cleared. I even heard at some point it was 20 players. You only got 3. This feels like a failure to me. And I know Charles McClellan sent some guys there to help with the compliance issues. I feel like more players should be there. I know now that not every single player will be cleared by Sunday, because the game will happen on Sunday. I hope BJ Bowler's there. I want to talk about availability, but if Bowler isn't there, it affects the game. If Land isn't there, which I don't expect him or Cam Colvin to be, because they both had the same issue of being advised incorrectly, I kind of feel like it takes away from the joy of the game. I'm still going to be very excited. There's things I want to watch. However, this is a big deal. Isaiah Land on one of the biggest stages that he's going to play this year, guaranteed at least. and he doesn't even get to play. I hate that. So that's the storyline I'm going to be watching. How do each of these teams overcome the adversity? Whether that's FAMU maybe not having a lot of linemen like they didn't last week, especially since they got injured. And then also Jackson State overcoming everything that's going on back home, because let's not underestimate what kind of toll that can take on these players. Then the second storyline that I'm looking at is the stakes are so high. I have a love-hate relationship. I'll be honest with you. I have a love-hate relationship with the Orange Blossom Classic's timing. The stakes are so high in this game. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you're looking at what was the de facto SWAC championship last year. These are not just two of the best teams in the conference. These are not just the two best teams in the conference. These were two of the three best HBCUs in the country. That's what you're looking at, and they're playing in week 1. Now, for me, preseason is all about what you feel comfortable in. That's what it is for me, because I'm talking. I understand. Listen, when I'm talking about the Saints and I'm off air, I get to get a little bit out of pocket. I get to say some things that are a little bit wider. But here, I got to say, you know what? What do I feel comfortable in? What can I concretely say and feel confident backing it up? We ain't talking out our neck on this side. Not on the podcast. Not on camera. Maybe you get me off camera, I might turn into a fan. But on camera, no. We got to stay in pocket, right? So with that being said, preseason for me is all about what I feel comfortable in saying. What do I feel comfortable is going to happen? So when I say I don't know, I'm not saying that this unit or this player or this aspect of the team is bad. What I'm saying is I don't know if they're good or bad. Now, sometimes I might just say, look, they were terrible last year, right? But that's the thing. I just do not know. But as of right now, I can feel comfortable saying that Florida A&M and Jackson State are the two best teams in the SWAC. I hope that I'm wrong, that this is just the de facto SWAC championship. I actually hope both of these teams lose at some point, because I just want to say, oh, Alabama State, they came and upset them. That was interesting. Didn't see that coming. Or Alabama A&M, they came and upset them. Or maybe there's a team in the West. We're not even talking about the East. Maybe there's a team in the West that comes up and it's like, oh, okay, these are legitimate threats to these two teams. Because I'm going to be honest, Prairie View was not that last year. It just didn't feel like it. It did not feel as if Prairie View was going to win that game coming in. I want at least a team, whether that's Texas Southern or Grambling, Alcorn, Southern, right? UAPB, whoever it could be, maybe somebody on the West that really feels like a legitimate threat to Jackson State or Florida A&M, if they're even the team that gets out of it. But my love-hate relationship is, or I love it because the stakes are high and it's a great way to open up the season, right? I know FAMU already had their first week 0 game, but then you also had Jackson State, who hasn't, and this is still week 1. But on the other hand, these two teams are not at their fullest or their most complete form. We're not looking at the best FAMU or the best Jackson State, right? FAMU teams always, or fans always say, well, you know, if we would have played later in the season, our quarterback X, Y, and Z. One Jackson State fan came on this show. I can't remember when it was, but in the comments, like, man, I hate when they say that, because Shedeur Sanders would have improved. So it's both ways, right? And I acknowledge the truth, but I also acknowledge that these aren't the best Tigers or Rattlers we'll see. They'll probably both be better as long as injuries don't affect or take a toll heavily. They'll probably both be better in week 7 than they are in week 1. So I love it because it's a great way to start the season, but I kind of hate it because I wish that we could see these two teams face off at their best, and they can't face off in a championship. So in a way, this is like the championship week 1. It's an interesting conundrum. As we go forward with Locked On HBCU, I am going to give you the one key to victory. I could have put this into the battles or into the matchups, but I decided not to because this matchup was so important that I think it's the deciding factor of the game. As we wrap up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, it is the Orange Blossom Classic. I'm going to give you the key to victory, and then also we're going to go around the HBCU landscape, including giving out the games that are going to be happening tonight. I'm dropping this episode on Thursday, so it's the Friday episode, but I'll be dropping it Thursday evening, really. Anyway, so let's get into the one key to victory, and that is win the quarterback battle. Usually, you never know when we come on here. I might give one key for each team, so it might seem like 2 keys, but it's one key for each team. But here, I felt like it was very simple and can be boiled down to a unified point, right? And that is the fact that, hey, you got to win this quarterback battle. I don't know what the offensive line for each team is going to look like. I don't know what the running game for each team is going to look like. I don't know what anything is going to happen, but I do know that Jeremy Moussa is a really good quarterback he's a quarterback who looked really good last week. Let him do it a couple of games before I say he's really good. I know I threw him in a SWAC Player of the Year conversation, but hey, we needed to add some depth to that conversation, and he performed like somebody who deserved to be in there. So I put him in there. But here's the thing. He has to come out and perform. Now he's going to his first SWAC game. These are defenses, and these are the type of plans that are closer to what he's going to see on a day-to-day basis or week-to-week basis in the conference. You're not going to see much North Carolina in the conference. They might even have played you different. I don't know what they could have done. But Jackson State is not going to play you any different than a team like Alabama A&M is going to. The only difference is going to be, well, how good are these teams, not the aggression behind it. So this is what I'm looking at out of Moussa. I want to see if you can replicate that 28 out of 38, nearly 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Probably want to cut out the interception, especially in a game like this. However, I'm still accepting that stat line in this game. I want to see if you improve. Do you get better? Can you top 300, right? Can you get maybe 3 touchdowns? Or it's not even about you personally getting 3 touchdowns, but you led them to 24 points. Can we get 28? Can we get 4 touchdowns on the board for the Rattlers? Now, when you're looking at it on the other side, Shedeur Sanders comes in with all the praise. There's no surprise. If Shedeur Sanders comes in and lights it up, there'll be very little surprise for what he's done. He's expected to be the SWAC Player of the Year. He's expected to be the best quarterback in the SWAC. I think he had a really good freshman year. I think there's some places he can improve, definitely. And maybe with the improved offensive line, he gets more time to show off what he can do. I think that he can benefit from that, amongst other things, whether that's more talent on the wide receiver side, if there's more talent at the running back with Sevion Wilkerson, and just maybe even running the ball more, being more consistent with it and using play action to help out your quarterback. But overall, you can't be the same freshman Shedeur Sanders, and we shouldn't expect him to be. We should expect for him to come out and have a really good performance, hopefully. I hope that we have a duel. I hope this is a game similar to how I talked about Body versus Sanders. This is a situation where it's 2 really good quarterbacks going against each other, but it's also 2 really good teams going against each other. So this is going to have all of the pressure, and everybody is going to be looking at this. I think that whoever wins the quarterback battle, and this might seem simple, this might seem like something everybody says, but it's the fact that the defense is so similar as far as we think they both could be very good. The offensive line's a question mark. I think that you got to give the nod at running back to Jackson State. However, overall, that's the offense, and the quarterback is going to be that deciding factor because Jeremy Moussa looked really good, and they're likely going to run the offense through the quarterback on both sides. So whoever wins that battle, whoever makes the moments, whoever makes the plays when they need to, not just the ones that's presented to them. Mind you, I said that about D. Davis. That's what he did, and that's what gave them the edge over Howard at the SWAC MEAC Challenge. Whoever does that between Moussa and Sanders is going to be the team that wins, in my opinion. If Moussa outplays Sanders, A, he is going to be in that SWAC Player of the Year conversation, and honestly, he'll probably turn into the front runner. That's how it'll be. But B, FAMU wins. If Shedeur Sanders steps up and he outperforms Jeremy Moussa, then Jackson State will be the victors. That's how much importance I'm placing on this. Now, we're going to start off going around the HBCU with some news that I thought was absolutely great. I think this was one of the best news I got recently, and that's the HBCU Combine will be held in Metairie, Louisiana, at the same time as the HBCU Legacy Bowl. Now, number one, and most importantly, from a purely selfish point of view, it was absolutely freezing in Alabama that weekend, and they did not have an inside facility. If it's that cold in Louisiana, it was that cold in Alabama. If it's that cold in Louisiana, they're going to move us inside. It was ridiculously cold. I mean, my teeth were chattering, okay? Sorry, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I said, oh my God, I do not have to sit in this cold again. They're going to move me inside where it'll be air-conditioned cold and maybe even have the heat on, to be honest. So I'm definitely excited for that. But then secondly, I think the Combine and the Legacy Bowl belong together. It was just a good fit. It was 2 events that were HBCU exclusive. So why don't we just have them together? I think there's some pros and cons. Of course, you're not going to have those people who came out for the Senior Bowl who just come a day early. However, you'll have those in the Combine who get the same look as those who are in the Legacy Bowl. So it's a little bit of give and take. I actually really love this move, though. as we continue going around the HBCU landscape, and then Kamari Averett. I think Kamari Averett is in a situation where I've adopted Willie Simmons' philosophy. Ain't no money game. This is a get money game. You can look at the money that's going to come to the HBCU. However, I'm thinking about these players as individuals who have an opportunity to put a big time game on their resume. We're talking about Jacoby Durant getting 2 interceptions versus Clemson and how that probably contributed to him being a 4th round pick. Every South Carolina State person will tell you that, yeah, this game against Clemson, that's going to be something that you want to show out for because scouts are already there. Scouts are already here trying to see these teams. You put something up, now they're looking at you a little bit different. So forget all that get money game. People want to see how is Cristobal first game in Miami. Kamari Averett should be able to come in and do something. He's looked at as arguably the best FCS tight end. So with that being the case, come on here and prove it. It's kind of like a Senior Bowl situation where you don't have to really concern yourself with, oh, well, we play lower competition in the scout's mind. No, I'm playing a big-time player or a big-time school right now. Look at how I'm performing. And I want to wrap it up by highlighting some of the best SWAC volleyball players because we didn't talk about volleyball this week, but they started as well. So let's give them a shout out. Matter of fact, let's end our week with giving them a shout out and talking about players when it comes to volleyball. Now, you had Jaden James from Grambling, who was the offensive player of the week. You had Temperance Chapman from Alabama State, who was the defensive player of the week. The set of the week was Demacy Thompson from Jackson State. And then the newcomer of the week in her first week playing in the SWAC, a freshman, her first week playing collegiate volleyball, it is Kylie Owens from Prairie View A&M. So much love to those ladies for doing what they did. We're going to try to give them shout outs as the week, and we'll probably give this shout out maybe to end every week. Yeah, maybe we will, because I think we're going to go around the HBCU almost Fridays, and we'll definitely continue to do 3 storylines or 3 matchups. I keep saying 3 storylines, but 3 matchups, 2 storylines, and 1 key to victory for our game of the week. Make sure you vote when I put the poll up. So I appreciate you for making us your first listen of the day every single day. We'll be back with Orange Blossom Classic review on Monday, so you are not going to want to miss that. Now, if you're looking for me in the meantime, in between time, make sure you're following me on Twitter at South Exclusives and making the Ultimate College Football, or excuse me, the Ultimate Pro Football preview your second listen of the day. Now, you can go listen to the 8th episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season with the local team experts on the Locked On Podcast Networks, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets. Just make sure you search up Ultimate Pro Football Preview on Odyssey, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. So follow me on Twitter. Until the next time that we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.